Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our second virtual update presentation, which we're calling the Virtual Town Hall Meeting for Libraries Australia. My name is Monica Shineko, and I have both the privilege and delight to lead Libraries Australia and work with a wonderful group of people who are dedicated to serving libraries. So last year, we replaced our annual on-site visits from Libraries Australia staff with an online town hall style meeting, and that was in August last year. And our first meeting had over 150 people. Feedback from our first meeting was overwhelmingly positive, with enthusiastic responses in favour of a similar presentation every 6 months. So this format increased from just around 100 on-site attendees at the face-to-face forum in 2015, and we built on the success of our summer sessions in 2016-17. This format allows us to attend, for members to attend our meetings individually or in groups and to network with colleagues across the country. And this also allows us to deliver and connect with you more than just once a year. I'll start with some introductions. With me today are Rebecca Higgins, who joined the team last week as Assistant Director, Libraries Australia Data Services. So this is day 8 for Rebecca, and her team looks at your data. They manage the data in and out of the ANBD and the CBS system that underpins the ANBD. Rebecca and her team do lots of consultation with you and with your system vendors on your behalf to make sure that we're creating the most efficient data flows and workflows to support your work in your libraries. And they apply their deep knowledge of the database to deliver collection analysis reports to you to help you understand your collections and support your collection management decisions. Much of this work is invisible, but when you use the Z3950 connection to get records out of the ANBD into your local system, that's because of the work that the LA systems and data specialists do for you. Next to Rebecca is Nikki Darby, and Nikki is the Assistant Director, Libraries Australia Member Services. And Nikki and her team look after you. They take care of member support, subscriptions, inquiries, communications like the website, newsletter, and community outreach and support. For example, like this online meeting. And they support the Libraries Australia Advisory Committee, and they work with the Libraries Australia trainers. And of course, they work with LAD, the Libraries Australia Document Delivery Service, that involves looking after the VDX system that underpins LAD and the range of interoperations with other ILL systems, for example, ALMA ILL and Relay and WorldShare ILS. And next to Nikki is Amanda Magnuson, and Amanda's the Assistant Director, Libraries Australia Data Sharing Strategy. And Amanda's role is the third element of support in the Libraries Australia service. While member services and data services are looking after your daily needs and managing services, Amanda's role is responsible for some of the less tangible aspects of the Libraries Australia service, and in particular, looking at what our Libraries Australia future is. We're thinking about what our national service may look like in 2 or 3 or 5 or 20 years' time. And to do that, much of the work relates to analysing our current environment, looking at what other national services are doing, getting a better understanding of who we are and what we do, and what our current services look like and how they are described. And you'll hear more from Amanda, Nikki and Rebecca today. So we've done our introductions, and now it's time for you to introduce yourselves. And I want to ask you to double check your chat feature on Zoom. Please go to chat and send us a quick message. If you are viewing on your own, please just say hi. If you're viewing in a group, please say hi, 3 people or 6 people, or if you're in a larger group, however many people you have. And I will just mention that we're doing lucky draw prizes for the first, 20th and 50th responses to our introduction chat. And we can see lots of hellos coming through. And it's fantastic to see the chat working there. Fantastic. So while you're doing that, and it's marvellous to see you all there, During this session, we're going to give you an update on each of the libraries, on Libraries Australia activities and what's happening, and give you an insight into some of the future plans. So what's been happening at Libraries Australia HQ since we met last August? Well, we've had our 36th birthday on the 2nd of November, and you'll notice that on the top left-hand side of the screen, you'll see our birthday cake and the party that we had internally, where we did actually play a game of Pass the Parcel, where we got to choose a range of conference merchandise that we'd collected from conferences over the years and share that around. We've had a website refresh and updated our news feature to be more dynamic. We've had our LARC meeting, Libraries Australia Advisory Committee meeting, on the 10th of December, which was almost 36 years to the day of the first ABN Network Committee meeting, which was on the 8th of December 1981. And we managed to recreate the photo of the two advisory groups, and you'll see that on the top right-hand side of the picture. We've also been out and about connecting with our members. Just recently, we had Nikki Darby and Karen Vanolis were at the VALA conference. We've had a visit to IATSIS earlier end of last month and met with our colleagues there. We've been on a visit to Darwin as well. And of course, we've been connecting with you via our help desk and through newsletters, news stories. Like any office preparing for an office move, because we are like any other office and any other library, we're about to go through our own domestic challenges of moving offices as we're going through a remodelling process. So as I mentioned, like any office preparing for an office move, we're going through our cupboards and collating our historical collections for Libraries Australia, and namely our merchandise collections. So we have a collection of merchandise here, and we've got some in front of us on the desk, and I'm not sure if anyone can see these things, and some cups that we're holding up as well. And we've got a couple of gaps in our collection to fill. So this is something else that we wanted to reach out to our members and ask your help with. In our search for merch, we find that we've got a gap in our collection, which is a lime green Libraries Australia phone sock from around 2005. If anyone's got something that looks like that, all we have is a picture. If you've got one, please let us know. I hope this is coming up on the screen. Please let us know, contact the help desk, and we'd love to fill the gap in our collection. So now, while we've got the frivolity out of the way, I'm going to move and introduce Amanda Magnuson, who's going to give you some of our fun facts.
Hello everybody. So we normally start with some statistics about Libraries Australia and the activities across the ANBD and the services, and we're trying to give you a picture of Libraries Australia membership across the country. So since our last town hall meeting, the 2016-17 Libraries Australia annual report was released, and that's available to you on the website. And this was also tabled at our last LARC meeting in December. So at the end of January 2018, we have over 32 million bibliographic records in the ANBD, over 54 million holdings, and just under 2 million authority records. There's also been very significant Libraries Australia activity during the year, with just under 54 million transactions in the first 7 months. And that's made up of just under 7 million searches and over 47 million transactions, so adding, editing or deleting bibliographic records or holdings. And in that same amount of time, we've also had just under 100,000 lab requests filled. Now, across the country, membership, we've got 1,164 members. And the slide that you're seeing on screen now shows you where they're located by state and what percentage of the total each state represents. Now, of those 1,164 members, there's 731 LAD members, and this slide shows you where the LAD members are located by state. So I'm moving on to, yep. And of those 54 million holdings on the ANBD, the slide that's on screen shows the number of holdings per state. So I'm now going to hand over to Rebecca, who's going to talk about what's been happening and what's coming up.
Hello everyone. I'd like to advise everyone about some upcoming fixes to the ANBD. So these will be resolved as part of an upcoming minor configuration. So there will be a fix to the 020 ISBN field. So the $Q with accompanying format type will now display in new records. That fix will apply to records that are being contributed to Libraries Australia via the Data Contribution Service, the Cataloguing Client, and also the WebCat form. There will also be a punctuation fix to the 255 cartographic mathematical data field. It's a mouthful. The semicolon will now display before the $B. And there will also be another punctuation fix for the 264 publication details, and this is my personal favourite. So the colon will now display before the $B in the publisher name. So these changes are currently within the testing phase, however they are due to be released soon. But I thought you might be interested to learn a bit more about our user acceptance testing and how Libraries Australia prepares for configuration changes. So all upcoming changes to the ANBD are put through a user acceptance testing process before being released to the production version of Libraries Australia. And we have a team of Libraries Australia staff who share this process. So this includes liaising with the National Library's IT support services and also international developers for CBS. So depending on the size of the configuration requirements and also issues that are found as part of testing, testing can actually take up to a number of weeks. And even after a configuration has been released to the production version of Libraries Australia, the changes aren't signed off until weeks after the fact. And this is so that Libraries Australia members can experience the changes as part of their normal workflows, and they can report any issues to us for investigation. And next, I'll move on to engaging with Libraries Australia user groups and communities of practice. So earlier this month, one of our Libraries Australia colleagues, Karen Vanolis, attended the VALA conference in Melbourne. And as part of that, she attended a WMS user group meeting. And this provided an opportunity for WMS to discuss their contribution to the ANBD and also how they can get the most out of their membership. Libraries Australia were delighted to be part of this conversation, as we're able to gain more insight into member experiences. And we would really value the opportunity to engage with other Libraries Australia members in their system user groups and communities of practice around systems.
So also while in Melbourne at VALA, Karen and I also attended the OCLC Resource Sharing Forum, which was held on the 12th of February. So at this meeting, OCLC provided updates and showcased 3 of their products that are basically the centre of their resource sharing product suite. So some of the key messages from these presentations were that the 3 products that they're moving forward with are WorldShare ILL, Tapasa and Relay D2D. And so they're looking to consolidate to those 3 products. And this is a reduction from about 10 to 12 products, and that's going to be happening in the next few years. So as we know, VDX is in the part of that future. So it should also be noted that WorldShare ILL and Tapasa will not interoperate with LAD while it's on the VDX platform. So we know that if any libraries move to these products before the national service, then they won't be able to interoperate with the national service. We're also told that OCLC is still developing these products in terms of incorporating the Australian copyright requirements for our region. Also at this meeting, Kay Ferran from New Zealand's Te Puna service also presented. And it's probably safe to say that New Zealand are sort of further along than us in terms of their decision making in moving off the VDX platform. So their environment isn't as complex as the Australian environment, and they are already on the WorldShare platform as they moved there in 2016. So we In August 2017, OCLC provided us a high-level, us as in Libraries Australia and Tapuna, a high-level proposal about migration from BDX to WorldShare ILL. But the Australian environment is more complex in that Libraries Australia uses the CBS software to underpin its national database, and we're not on the WorldShare platform. And we also have 87 locations that are using various ISO ILL compliant systems to interoperate with the lab service. We also know that many libraries are using a hybrid of environment, utilising a range of supply and delivery options, as well as utilising the national resource sharing infrastructure to source material for their local users. So we need to know more about the requirements, what their requirements are for a national service. So therefore, we're now focused on working with our members to develop our roadmap for the future of the lab service. And Libraries Australia established a Lab Futures group in September of last year. This has 10 members from Libraries Australia, and they're from the various sectors, so 3 from NASLA, 3 from the university sector, 2 from public libraries and 2 from special libraries. And this group's been working with the ALIA ILL committee to conduct an environmental scan about where we're at in terms of our environment, and also to contribute to the a statement of requirements for the national service for moving forward. They've also been contributing to the development of our Share It event, which Monica will now talk about.
Right, so Share It. I hope you've seen at least this image and part of this information that's appearing on all of our signatures when we send anything out to the list and communicate with pretty much anyone. So ALIA and Libraries Australia are hosting a 2-day event called Share It, Resource Sharing Futures. And it's being held at the National Library of Australia here in Canberra on the 10th and the 11th of May. The conference itself is a 1-day event on the 10th, and that's open to everyone. And the second day is an invitation-only event. It's more of a workshop style to address some of the burning questions about the resource sharing environment in Australia and the future of resource sharing, obviously stimulated by talks and presentations that happen on day 1. So as I mentioned, the conference on day 1 is open to all, and it's designed to get you talking and thinking and planning about the future of resource sharing. So we encourage interlibrary loan and document delivery practitioners and strategists who work with resource sharing on a daily basis to come along, as well as those of you who are facing tough decisions about the viability of resource sharing in your organisation to come and be part of that conversation. ALIA and Libraries Australia will launch the full program next week, and with registrations opening at the same time. We're excited to have Professor Chris Reedy as our keynote speaker. Chris is the Professor of Sustainability Governance and Director of Higher Degree Research at the Institute for Sustainable Futures at the University of Technology, Sydney. Chris is a transdisciplinary academic at the Institute for Sustainable Futures, and he has a strong research interest in the potential for sharing to contribute towards a sustainable future. He has strong research, Chris draws on sociological and political theory and futures thinking and transformative science to design, facilitate and evaluate practical experiments in transformative change. We've decided to introduce a speaker from outside the library domain to introduce our topic as well, because we know that resource sharing is a much broader concept, and in fact resource sharing in its broadest context is part of our professional ethos of libraries. As mentioned, day 2 will be by invitation and will be a workshop with representatives from across the resource sharing spectrum, and it will contribute to develop a roadmap for the future of the National Resource Sharing Service. The conference will get representatives thinking and will build on the work of the Lab Futures Group and the ALIA ILL Advisory Committee to formulate an action plan for the future of resource sharing, national resource sharing in Australia. So please stay tuned for information about Share It, and when it comes out, please register your attendance. We look forward to seeing you in Canberra in May. And over to Amanda now for a change of scene.
Okay, so now we want to think for a little while about who we think we are. Before our last town hall, we at Libraries Australia HQ have done considerable work to map and describe the full range of services that are available to you as members. Since then, we've turned our attention to better understanding our members and the way you work with us. So one of Libraries Australia's performance indicators looks at our level of membership within the different library sectors. And to measure that, we first have to know what the population of the different library sectors is. And this was quite a complex piece of work because there is no such thing as a current census of Australian libraries. So we compiled population numbers for each sector with as much assistance from colleagues in many of the Australian library peak bodies. And the slides you can see on screen now, from this we've now got a much better picture of what we think the sectoral use of Libraries Australia looks like. Okay. The second element of this is to try and better understand the different ways that you work with Libraries Australia. So this is work that's been partly around the different providers and the library management systems that are in use in your libraries. Now, many of you do have your LMS listed in your entry on the Australian Libraries Gateway, but we also know that many of the entries have not been updated for some time. And some of the LMS information we know is for vendors or systems that no longer exist. So the slide that's on screen now gives you a picture of which number of libraries are working with which vendors. And you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, for nearly a third of you, we actually have no idea what system you're on. And for the remaining 2/3, we have an entry from your ALG entry, but we're not sure if it's still correct. So I guess we've now got a question for you, and we'd love to see your answers in the chat. Do you know if your ALG entry is actually up to date? And the second part of that is, whether you do or don't think it's up to date, do you actually know how to update it? We'd really encourage you to spend a few minutes on ALG, check that your entry is correct, update it if you need to. And if you're not sure of your ALG logon details or you don't know how to update your entry, then we'd really encourage you to contact the help desk.
We're getting some lovely chat here
we
through
are.
now, Amanda. You can see we've had Susan and Kathy tell us that they both know it's up to date and how to keep it updated for their institutions. So thanks to both of you, and there'll be a special prize in the mail for saying yes, you know how to do it.
So we'd love you to tell us. I'm now going to hand over to Nikki, and she's going to tell us some information that's hot off the press.
Yes, so we're really happy to announce that as of 1 o'clock today, we've now opened our Libraries Australia member survey. So before we came down here, an hour ago now, we already had 12 people respond and 43 underway. So that was sort of in the first half hour. So we're really excited about that, and we hope that more people will continue to complete the survey.
And I've had an update. I will just give you, since this is like a live telethon now, we've had 31 recorded responses and 59 are still in progress.
Fantastic.
So keep it coming. We hope that there are more happening as we speak.
And this disclaimer, we certainly did not schedule the outage this afternoon so that you could complete your survey, but if you do have time, that would be fantastic. So just a bit of background, the survey, it's the first comprehensive survey that we've done for this since 2011, so we're really looking forward to getting everyone's responses. We want to know what you think of Libraries Australia, what you like, what you don't like, what you think, what's working for you, what you think's not working. We'll be using this feedback to improve our current services, and we'll also be providing using it to provide the services into the future. So each organisation was sent an email directly at 1 o'clock today, and we've also sent it out to our email list. We really want to get a broad cross-section of responses, so we'd like multiple people from your organisations to fill it out. So we do encourage you put it within your organisation so they can fill that, because we want input from people at different work levels. We want people from CEO, front managers to practitioners, anyone that's using the service to provide us some feedback. It's divided into several sections, so you don't have to complete the whole survey, so don't be sort of daunted by the whole thing. So yeah, you can really just tailor it to the areas that you have experience in and that you want to contribute your feedback on. We do have incentives for completing the survey, so every 100th person that completes the survey will get a free analysis of their organisation's collection by some of our data specialists in the data services team, and every 50th respondents will get a swag of our merchandise, more up-to-date merchandise than the ones
There will be no phone covers, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, if you do have a phone cover and you send it in, then we can replace it with some more up-to-date ones, but that's fine. So the survey will close on the 25th of March, so yeah, we just really do encourage people to let us know what you think, and we really are looking forward to hearing that.
Yes.
Thank you.
So moving on from our survey, and we're looking at other ways that we're connecting with you and getting out and about to be with you. As I mentioned at the beginning of my, when we started at the beginning of my talk, we're building on this tradition of our annual sites across the country. And last August, Nikki Darby and Heather Walsh, who used to work with the service, travelled to Darwin in the Northern Territory for 2 days for a 2-day intensive consultation visit. And this was the first of our more focused consultation visits with groups, and it's in line with our approach to develop deeper connections with communities of practice around library systems of geographic areas and projects, and really to tap into some of the local issues that are going on. So Nikki and Heather met with representatives from the Northern Territory Library and the wider Northern Territory Consortium, as well as various special libraries in the Charles Darwin University. The program for the visit was developed in consultation with members of the community and allowed library staff to connect with more than 26 people in a range of organisations and sectors to discuss a broad range of topics that were relevant to the local community. And some of those were data migration issues for members, future plans for ILR system migrations, the value of acquisition files, data on demand and data remediation services to members, and a number of new initiatives and updates for members. So our next visit, our next in-depth consultation is going to be to Adelaide, and we want to continue to work with members to develop a program that's beneficial to members. So we haven't actually started to schedule or create, put together that visit, but we expect it to be in late March, early April. We'll be communicating with our colleagues in South Australia about the best date for that to happen and what you need to happen. So if you live in South Australia, start thinking about that now, and we'll be in contact with you very shortly to see how we can participate with you and work with you to help solve some of your local challenges, hopefully via the Libraries Australia service. We'll also be doing a visit with the State Library of New South Wales about getting some of the Libraries Australia Authority data connected into the ALMA system as well. Now, this is a long-standing question that we've had, and we've yet to explore that fully, and we've yet to set a date for that, but we know that we'll be there shortly. So any colleagues from the State Library of New South Wales who haven't dropped off our radar, we've just had a few changes here. We haven't had a chance to get back to you. We know we'll also be visiting the Ex Libris user group meeting. I believe that's in May, and so we'll be talking with Ex Libris customers there as well. So again, we look forward to connecting with all members, and we'll be continuing our program of local specialised visits, consultation visits, and as Rebecca mentioned earlier, with our WMS user group connection. We really look forward to invitations from user groups for all systems in use by Libraries Australia members, and working with you to work out how to get the best connection between your local system and Libraries Australia. And finally, I'd like to mention our member stories. So we encourage you to look at these new member stories that showcase what you are doing in your libraries to meet your users' needs and your community needs. And on the screen now, you'll see that we've got 4 of the user member stories: Murdoch's Aliens, Rain, Hail, Shine, I Feel Like a Detective, and On the Case, that have been featured on our front page of our website. They're really lovely stories, and they've been co-written with members themselves, and it's been so wonderful to see the benefits and the variety and the value of Libraries Australia and what libraries in our community are doing. We've really enjoyed working with the libraries to hear about what you're doing and encourage others to share your stories as well. If you've got a story to tell about innovation or a project you've recently completed with us, or something, a service that has helped to solve a problem that you've had for a while, please let us know. And we've got wonderful colleague Penny O'Hara who works with you to develop a lovely story that can feature on the website, but you'll also be able to share and get value out of by sharing it within your local organisation as well, and demonstrate what you do as a library and how you're connected to a national service. We're committed to working with our community to deliver services and to continue to solve the problems that you need to solve into the future. And those problems might be about data remediation, they might be about connecting to national collaborative services like Libraries Australia and Trove. They might be about becoming visible. They might be about migrating your data from your local system into a new system. It might be about interoperating your ILL system with LAD or other services as well. We're here to help you, and we'd love to hear your stories as well. We're keen to expand our conversation with you, our members, and I'm just looking at the clock now, and we've got 20 minutes left in which we can open the chat room, and if you've got questions for us, please ask us some questions. And we're here to help. We may not be able to answer them all, and particularly Rebecca, it's day 8 for Rebecca. So we're giving her a free pass if she needs to phone a friend. But we'll see, if we can't answer your question now, we'll get back to you, and we'd love to be able to share the answers to any questions via our email distribution list. This presentation and webinar will be recorded as well, so you'll be able to see afterwards. And we're standing by. I hope that's given you enough time to think of questions and to start writing questions, and we're just going to read them now. From Danny, can someone get back to us at CIT and let us know how to update our library management system details, please? Yes, we can do that. Danny, if you send a message to the help desk, we'll get back to you about that so we know exactly how to get there. We're losing some of our, okay. Regarding the Share It conference, how will attendees know if they're invited? We haven't sent out invitations yet, but there'll be an invitation sent out individually. We're still working with our Libraries Australia Advisory Committee to develop a list of those, the people that will be involved in that. We haven't finalised how that's going to look yet, but we'll also be talking to Lab Futures Group and the ALIA ILL Advisory Group about how to construct the workshop audience for that day. Okay, got a question from Lynn that says there seems to be a focus on interacting in consultations and system user groups. What is the role of the regional user groups and special interest groups which seem to have been sidelined or forgotten? Thanks for your question, Lynn. we have had a shift in focus really to try and engage more people at the same time from across the country, which is why we've focused on doing these virtual presentations where we've got everyone across Australia all together. There is still a role for regional user groups in that we believe that Libraries Australia is a shared community, and we hope that if you've got an active user group or a special interest group, which might be about, often they're about cataloguing or document delivery, there are still active user groups going on in the country around in different locations. They're not the same in each place, and we expect them to be user-led, and if they've got particular questions, we would be very happy to join any user group that you've got, any regional user group, and we will join via Zoom like this we're very happy to be part of a Q&A as part of that. But if they're active and many groups still use them as a really good forum to share and exchange information locally and connect locally. And some of the user groups are very active, and some increasingly Libraries Australia topics are perhaps less of a focus of those user groups when people gather than when they used to be. But really, it's up to the local communities as you'd like to see them. With the new website, there's a place. I'll hand over to Nikki for some more of that support.
So, I mean, we do have information about the user groups. We are still trying to get sort of a space where you can put your meeting notes and share them with other states and that sort of thing. But we certainly are, interested in participating within the meetings. If you wanted to let us know, we can organise that. It may be virtual though, that we'd be participating. So not too long now that we've got our website up, we're also looking at probably a wiki space which will be able to share information as well. So I think there's sort of a couple of avenues that we might be able to
Our focus though is very much on a broad national conversation as well as the regional communities of practice. We've got a question from, and thank you Jackie for saying thank you. We've got a question from Janine. Are there plans underway to attempt a new census of libraries in Australia? What a good question. That would have made Amanda's life so much easier.
I can probably feel that in the sense that we're not aware of any plans to attempt a new census at this point in time. What I can say is we're working on being able to publish the underlying research that we did to arrive at population numbers. So that's in train. So it's not a census as such, but making some information available about the research we did.
Yeah. Also, we'd really encourage everyone to make sure ALG and ILRS are up to date, because often that is used as the de facto source of truth for Australian libraries. So all the more reason to keep that up to date. Are there any, from Anita, are there any refresher cataloguing training modules available on LA? That would really be up to our Libraries Australia trainers. So we can pass that on to our Libraries Australia trainers and put out a call if there's interest in people doing a refresher cataloguing training course on that. So that's a great question. Thank you, Anita. From Lois, how often is the ANBD deduplicated? Is there a schedule or is it on an as-needed basis? Well, Rebecca would normally handle this question, but do you want someone else to answer this? Rebecca plaintively looked at me and said, yes, please. So about ANBD deduplication, it's a never-ending process. So it actually happens every night. And there's no point at which we can ever say it's completely deduplicated, but it's an ongoing process. So we have programs, the Duplicate Detection and Removal Program, or DDR as we call it, which goes across the database every single night, and it deduplicates things based on OCLC numbers or other match point numbers. Often ISBN isn't always a reliable match point, but we certainly use a number of match points and we keep changing them. But it's really like, and I use this analogy a lot, it's like combing the knots out of long hair. You have to keep going and teasing it out. So it's a never-ending process, and because, of course, records come in all the time, it's never-ending. So it's going on. We do report the number of deduplications that we do in our annual stats, and if you look at our annual report that's available on our website, you'll see that we've got information there on the volume of records that are deduplicated. So I hope that answers your question, Lois. Janet, we're happy to see fixes for 020, 255 and 264 problems, so are we. Where are you up to with other no issues, for instance, punctuation 110 and 710? We might have to get back to you on that. I'm not sure if they're included in the next configuration or not, but what we will do as a takeaway from that, because I'll take it as a broader question, I think it would be useful for us to communicate as to where we are with known issues relating to the system, and we'll prepare some information and send out via our list and as a news item. Is that okay, Rebecca? We'll take that as a question or notice, if we may. I hope that's helpful. We just need to scroll up a little bit. We're losing some of the questions. I hope that answers your question, Janet. Karen's asked, what is the nature of today's maintenance? I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that question, but I hope the above answer about the known maintenance might be
about the outage this afternoon. So it's very back. It's not exciting. It's very back end. It's just about a server migration within our infrastructure. So you won't see any changes or anything when it's back up. So
Okay.
it's just to do with the infrastructure.
Sorry, I didn't understand that message, but yes, you shouldn't see anything new. It's internal infrastructure at the National Library that's changing. Okay. Lynn.
Yep.
Victorian Cataloguing Special Interest Group will be interested in Zoom attendance at our next meeting. You'll contact LA closer to the time. Fantastic. We'd love to be there. Rebecca, we'd love to be there. Fantastic. Janine, thank you. Thank you. Robin, I noticed that the importing and amending records from external databases guide is not available and was informed that a revision was happening. Is there further updates? We'll have to get back to you on that. I'm not entirely sure, but that looks like another piece of work that we can... we've got notice from our Libraries Australia crew who are watching from their desks.
They've just updated it.
How's that? Robin, you asked the question at 2:48 and Libraries Australia replied at 2:49. And there's a link there. Importing records, external databases, ANBD. Fantastic. Kelly, we'd like to suggest that maintenance happens in more non-standard office hours, weekends and evenings. This downtime takes up a lot of our available processing time in the week. Kelly, we absolutely agree with you, and generally we do try and do that, and so we really do apologise that this is in work time. I'll hand over to Nikki because I know Nikki was involved in coordinating some of the communication about scheduling, and
I mean, we always try and give as much notice as we can, and like Monica said, we try and do it in non-working hours because we do understand that it affects members. So we do a lot of thinking and scheduling, but there's sort of a lot of things that we've got to take into consideration, and for this particular one we weren't able to do that, unfortunately, but be assured that we do take that into account, and we try as much as possible not to interfere with your working day.
Yeah. So we do apologise for that. Yeah. Janet says, thank you, looking forward to more communication. Fantastic. Robin says, thanks. Kelly says, thanks, understood. Thank you. Vera, I agree. It's not a good idea to use working hours yet. We're, again, very sorry about that, Vera. We do understand it has cut into your workday, and it has very much cut into the workday of our West Australian colleagues who, of course, have a longer outage than those of us in the eastern states. And we're looking for more chat to come through. It's 2:52 by in Canberra time. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, I'm going to ask one last question for those people who are still online with us. And that question is, has this been a useful session for you? And would you like to come again in about 6 months' time? Shall we hold another? Would you be interested in another session? Yes and yes. Yes, thanks. Fantastic. Yes. Marvellous. Ditto. Yes and yes. Yes, and thanks kindly. Yes. Oh, look, this is marvellous. Yes, please. Yes. Yes, and cheers. Thanks very much. And a couple of people have said they've been reminded to update your page. So absolutely delighted about that. We're actually going to do some tracking of how much activity there's going to be on the ALG directory and ILRS to see after we've put this call out. So if anyone needs any help with updating that, if you get stuck for any reason, please contact our wonderful people on the Libraries Australia help desk and they will assist you. And we're so excited to have this opportunity to share what we've been doing and some of our work, and also for you to meet Rebecca, who's 8 days old in Libraries Australia. I'm going to close off now unless there are any other questions. So this is last drinks now. We've still got a few people on board, but we've got 6 minutes if you'd like to squeeze one last question in. Okay, I guess I'll take that as oh, there was an earlier question from Vera asking if LAD is moving towards OCLC. Great question, Vera and Jackie. Thank you for sending that on, which clearly I didn't see that as it came through. We don't know yet. And that's exactly the question that we want the LAD Futures group to prepare for, and what the Share It conference will help us to determine. There will be more consultation about that very question around the time of May, when the Share It conference is going on. So please stay tuned. And this is not a question that Libraries Australia can decide on its own. We're a subscription-based service. Your members, we're looking for your input into that conversation as well. So we look forward to you connecting into that conversation. Looking forward to attending Share It and networking. Well, fantastic. Jacqueline Thompson is looking forward to connecting with people at Share It. So please come along when registration's open. We hope we'll fill up really quickly. Okay, there's a few minutes now for you to go back to your desks after you close off this session and complete the Libraries Australia survey. So we thank you so much for spending the afternoon with us. My apologies for the technical glitches at the beginning. We are...
iron them out for next time.
We'll iron them out. We're getting better and better. We're tackling new problems each time. But anyway, we look forward to meeting up with you again at our next town hall meeting. And in the meantime, we hope to see you at one of your own user groups or one of your regional groups as well. So this is Libraries Australia HQ, over and out. Bye everyone.
Thank you.
See you.